Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the past, really. It's just something that I thought of last night, and I thought, you know what, I'll make a video. You know, I've been playing the game 10 years. It's a kind of a bit of nostalgia video, and talk about the game, where the game is now, where the game was, and where we see the game in the future. Now, the game in the past. Now, a lot of you probably won't even remember when the game almost pretty much first come out. I didn't play it when it first come out, but it wasn't much different. It wasn't that long after I started playing the game. Now, seeing the game now from then, it is a massive change. It's completely different. The graphics, of course, maps, tanks, everything is completely different. Now, my era in Blitz, when I first started, we had hardly anything. So we had no replays, we had no camouflages, we had no light tanks in tier 10. Light tanks were like the thing that, very, very rare. In fact, I can't even remember any light tank in the game, apart from sort of the lower tier tanks. All the upper tier tanks, they were it was non-existent. Maps as well, there were only a sort of small pool of maps to choose from, and one of the biggest things is, of course, that people to this day still complain about, but if they would play the game when when the game first come out, I don't think they would complain as much, and that's a lot to do with matchmaking. Now, when I first started matchmaking, we never really had any rules. There was no rules, where now you can only have, 3 of each tank types. Light tanks now are considered sort of medium, but back when I first started, there was no tank types. There was no matchmaking rules. So basically, you could have 7 tank destroyers versus 7 mediums. And of course, because of the DPM, mediums really would kind of just annihilate them. But that wasn't it, that wasn't all. It was a 2 versus 2 matchmaking, which some people wish that was actually back. I don't think it would work with the player base that we have now, because as we know, they're not as skilled as they used to be. So imagine coming up against an E3 in a RU251 or something, something like that. So we had +2, -2 matchmaking, so tier 10s would see tier 8s, and that would start from sort of tier 5. So tier 4s, you'd only see tier 3 and tier 5. Tier 5, you'd see tier 4s, and you would see tier 7. So tier 5 was the sort of tier tank where you was never top tier. And of course, there were some tanks out there which had preferential matchmaking because they just wasn't strong enough. The KV5, the IS6, they would only ever see 1 tier above. So you had that kind of matchmaking. But on top of that, you also had matchmaking where it would be completely random. So if there wasn't enough players in the matchmaker, then you could be up against so it could be a 7 versus 6. It could be a 7 versus 6. And on top of that, the +2, -2 matchmaking, if you're tier 10, your team could have 2 tier 8s. The enemy could actually have 4 tier 8s. So it was all over the place. So looking at matchmaking now compared to what it used to be, honestly, I wouldn't complain too much. So not only that, so that's the matchmaking. Where it comes to things like YouTube, nowadays, every other person is a YouTuber or making videos. Back then, there was only really one person. When I first started, there was only really one person to go to. Just one person, and that was the main man himself, and he calls himself Bushka. So Bushka was the only person really to go to. And then after sort of Bushka for a little while, you then had Skate Extreme. And then of course Skate Extreme then led on to people like Martin Dogger and a few other people. And that's when I started my Blitz journey. So I managed to get sort of very lucky. No one really ever called me out. No one ever sort of advertised my channel. I kind of just started on my own, but what I did is just put a lot of content out there. I put so much content out there that eventually sort of the algorithm, people started watching, I started getting subs, and to be fair, I sort of grew very, very quickly. So from 1,000 subs to sort of 50,000 subs, I grew very, very quickly. And then after that, so moving on to the Blitz journey, Wargaming then started to do some really good things and, of course, really bad things. So we had update 5.5, which basically they ripped it apart. And then, of course, they had where they removed all the lower tier tanks. They removed a load of tanks that people wasn't happy, and of course the 5.5, and then you got the spare parts, etc, etc. But there are some things that, you know, Wargaming have done, like it's the best things they've ever done. Now I could think of 3 things that the best thing they ever done. Now one of them was training rooms. So training rooms didn't exist, so they added training rooms, and it allowed people to, you know, play the game for a bit of fun. So people used to play Kiss Chase, stuff like that. And then they added tournaments. What else did they add? They added tournaments. And for me, one of my favorite things is, of course, replays. So back when I first started the game, I had to record every single battle. Sometimes you would forget to record, then you would have the battle of your life, and you're like, I'm not recording. So with the introduction of replays, it kind of took that away, so you didn't have to record everything. So, you know, Wargaming have done their job in building up from now till where we were. And then, of course, where are we going to go for the future? So we all know Unreal Engine is coming, and it will probably be coming very, very soon. And that's just taking Blitz to a different level. Like, if you then, once Unreal Engine comes and we get the graphics, we get the flipping tanks, we get all the fire, the lava, all that kind of stuff. If you look at the game then compared to what it was when it first come out, like, it is crazy, absolutely crazy. You know, but you know, the game evolves, everyone evolves. You know, it is what it is, and they are just living with the times. And I know some people are not entirely happy with Unreal Engine, but you know, it's new. It is new. People are not happy from when we used to play it with the graphics and everything like that to what it is now. At the end of the day, we got used to it, and times change, you know, and we did get used to it. And now look, we're now moaning again that it's going to change. So Wargaming have done their good, but they also have done their bad. When they first introduced crates, people again were like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this, Wargaming? Do you need to do this? But then Wargaming sort of spoke to us at Tankfest, and the amount of money they was getting from crates rather than selling the tank directly in shop was just completely different. Like, why wouldn't you, as a business, why wouldn't you sell crates that are earning you probably 10 times as much than they would earn if they were just selling the tank in store for gold, etc, etc. So, you know, from a business side of view, it makes complete sense. From the consumer side of things, our side, yeah, it sucks, because we just want to buy the tank. We want to buy it as cheap as we can. We don't want to buy crates where you might not even get the tank, or it will just cost you a lot of money. So yeah, you know, that is the life in Blitz. And we didn't have any of these kind of tanks either back then. Like, we had no OP tank really. The OP tanks, you used to have to rely on tech tree tanks. We had none of these, absolutely none of these OP tanks. Not all of them are OP, but things like this, it didn't exist back then. You know, you had the standard premium, the odd premium will come into shop. You had the standard premiums where you could buy from the tech tree, like the IS6s, the T-34s, but you know, that is when the IS6 was considered OP. Then they started introducing bigger and better tanks. The IS3 Defender was like insane back in the day. But you know, now it is absolutely nothing. So when did you start Blitz? When did you start playing Blitz? Because like I said, I'm coming on 10 years now. And since I started the game, there has been so much change. Some good, some bad, and of course, looking into the future, it is going to change even more. So when did you start playing Blitz? Let me know in the comments. And do you prefer it now, or do you prefer it bulk standard back in the day? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm meadsy69, and I will catch you all soon. Bye bye.